What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, where we go through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, this episode is a little bit different. Today, we're talking organized team activities, OTAs, and I got some takeaways. So let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here. I know you guys like that rhyme. That was fire. I actually did not plan that. It sounded really good though when I said it, so I'm glad it went that way. So today I had an opportunity to attend Detroit Lions OTAs. A couple shout outs I do have to throw in here before we get into anything. First off, of course, shout out to the Detroit Lions, the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. Shout out to my man, Michael Banks. I know you're watching right now, so I appreciate you. And shout out to the Detroit Lions. Anybody that said what's up that was there, I really appreciate that. All of the support. And shout out to the Lions players, man. Okay, some of the staff, you know, Chris Spielman getting everybody hyped, but the Lions players, I know you guys see the crazy amount of autographs on this hat, which means I probably won't be wearing this hat as often. But not only did I get tons of autographs, I also got tons of pictures as well, which I'm pretty sure I'm just going to start throwing in as this video goes. This may look a little bit like a picture book as you're watching this video, but that's okay. You know, that's okay. I got a lot of pictures, and there's a lot of pictures that I want to share with you guys that I thought was pretty darn cool. So those are the shout outs that I wanted to give out. But today, I had an opportunity to attend Detroit Lions OTAs and get some of my takeaways. Now, obviously, we're in June, right? It's June 2nd. We are extremely early into this. Last year, we talked training camp. I got takeaways from training camp, but that's much closer. I mean, we're talking about preseason. This is June, all right? So we still are very early into this process, but still there's takeaways to be had, especially when you have the amount of new pieces. Observations, I would say. I mean, of course, the viewing, it's not like we got the all-22 going on. We're at field level here, so there is that side of it. But it was a look at the new Detroit Lions. The first time I'm seeing the new 2022 Detroit Lions in person. Yesterday got kind of canceled because of storms. But the first time, the first look at the Lions 2022 rosters, the Aiden Hutchinsons, the Deshaun Elliott's, the DJ Charks, the Jamison Williams, even though he's standing off the side just holding a football. It's super exciting to be back, man. I'll just say that. I mean, we're back for football. I'm ready for this. I'm pumped for this. Let's get this thing started. I do want to make a couple of side notes in terms of participation. I don't know all the guys that participated or did not participate, but there were a couple that stood out to me. First one being TJ Hockenson. I did not notice TJ Hockenson even there, so that is something that I thought I would throw. I didn't see TJ Hockenson at practice. Taylor Decker, same thing. So you had Penei Sewell repping at left tackle and Matt Nelson at right tackle for the starting unit. So that's another one I put out. I don't think Iffy was actually practicing today. Iffy was there, but I don't think he was actually practicing. I don't think he came over afterwards either. So I think he was kind of just there. Jamison Williams, of course, not practicing. Jeff Okudah did go through the beginning of the drills, kind of like the walkthroughs where they're going at like 70%. They haven't stretched out yet and getting into more of the full speed. Still no contact, but, well, not really contact, but more of the full speed. It was more of the 70% speed that Jeff Okudah, was going through some of those early drills. And we're going to talk about that because he made some plays in those drills. Josh Pascal, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. I didn't notice him either in terms of participating, so that's another one that I would point out. And also, this is cool, John Kaminsky was there, all right? Shout out to John Kaminsky. You guys saw it. I posted it in the community. The community, I posted that picture. That's John Kaminsky, the player that the Lions just claimed. Apparently 8 teams placed a claim for John Kaminsky, but the Detroit Lions were awarded him as they were second on the waiver wire. Good thing the Jacksonville Jaguars did not, because otherwise he'd be there right now. But John Kaminsky, got a picture with that guy. That was super cool. So he was there participating. So those are some of the things that stuck out to me in terms of participation that I want to point out. If anything else comes to mind as we're going through this, I'll mention that as well. They did some special teams drill. Godwin was back there, but I don't think he fielded any kick returns. However, he was active through, the day of practice. We'll start off with a couple of presser takeaways, and then we'll get into some of my notes that I took from today's OTA. Starting off with Jeff Okudah, according to Dan Campbell, he's been recovering from this Achilles injury that he dealt with in week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers. So it's been a minute, but he's working his way back. We've all seen the clips that he's posting on social media, and according to Dan Campbell, he's really not concerned about the Achilles injuries for Jeff Okudah. Basically saying, look, we're not really worried about his movement skills. The least of his concerns with Jeff Okudah. Now, I did make a note, as we said, he's out there at the beginning of practice, going through individual, like special teams drills. He's going out about 70%, and then he's off to the side when it comes to going some of the 11-on-11s, when they're going at like more full play speed. For about half the time, he's on the sideline. He's got a little notepad. I don't know what he's doing, but he's taking notes. He's talking to the other defensive backs. He's got like a little handshake or something with every guy it seems to come over there. And then at the same time, when he wasn't doing that, you also saw him doing some sprints towards the end of practice on the other field, because there was this field and then there was one right here, and they were practicing here and they were doing their drills when everybody came together, and then Okudah was on the other field doing some sprints. Sometimes you had, different groups kind of take off and do some work as well. But that's what he was doing. So I'm very excited about Jeff Okudah's return. One thing I will note, while he didn't go through some of the more full speed, and again, it's not like full on contact at this point because there are some rules against that. However, and I know it's not at full speed, okay? I know it's more of like the walkthrough side, but there's still like, fast jogging, I guess. Technically, he did have an underneath interception and a pass breakup. Technically, now I wouldn't really say it was like, full speed. He's picking that off. I don't know if I would say that, but he brought the energy. He was in good spirits. So he had technically an interception and a pass breakups, but again, it was kind of more of a walkthrough than anything. So don't get like maybe super pumped about that, but be pumped because of the energy the guy brought. Firstly, because he was super energized, seemed in great spirits, and secondly, because he is moving really well. And where he's at this point in June, to where he could be at in training camp is very exciting. He looks like he's going to be in a really good spot. And according to Dan Campbell, he believes that will be the case. Dan Campbell also touched on TJ Hockenson. A lot of the talk recently has been about should he get an extension. I think a lot of this is stemmed from the David Njoku extension that has been given out from the Cleveland Browns. And now it's like, hey, wait a minute. Should TJ Hockenson be getting an extension? Because we just picked up the guy's fifth-year option. So he's got this season. He's got next season. Should we be considering giving him a contract extension? I definitely think this is a big year for TJ Hockenson, specifically staying on the field. That's going to be very important. Last season, he only played in 12 games for the Lions, and he had 6 penalties, which is too many for that many games played. If that was over 17 games, that's all right, but he definitely needs to dial back the penalties a little bit. I'm sure eventually we'll do a video more on TJ Hockenson, but we've already talked about this in the live stream. But here's what Dan Campbell said about the whole TJ Hockenson situation, is that we know about his willingness to mix it up in the run game, his willingness to block, but also his ability to win one-on-one as a receiving threat. He kind of compared it to, the Wallers, the Travis Kelce's, some of these guys, some of these tight ends that are more of the receiving tight ends, versus TJ Hockenson, who's a little bit more willing to mix it up in the run game, but we just need him to be able to win basically his one-on-ones. He needs to be able to make the play in the crucial situations. We threw up the stats in the stream, comparing TJ Hockenson to the top 5 paid tight ends right now, and currently he is more productive than a guy like David Njoku, or really Dallas Goedert. He's actually a little bit more productive than he has been over his, 3 seasons in the NFL. And last season, he averaged over 5 receptions per game, which put him at 3rd in the league. He was also 8th in the National Football League in terms of receiving yards per game, catching 0.3 touchdowns per game. I think that'll be an area to really look at, because I still believe in the receiving core. He stands out as the real red zone target that we have down there, especially when you just consider winning your one-on-one, winning with size inside the 15, 10, 20-yard line. That's where TJ Hockenson really separates himself in terms of on paper. But last season, I thought he was pretty big in a lot of those crucial downs. He only had 1 drop according to Pro Football Reference, so he was reliable in those regards. He was a little bit more limited towards the middle part of the season. We didn't have some deep threats, and some of our passes to him were underneath. Didn't give much of an opportunity to make plays downfield. But I think Dan Campbell put it really well, is that you really want to have that trust in a player. You need to have that trust that he can win those one-on-ones. I think we saw last year the ability to do that. We'll break this down into more depth going forward, but we did see it starting in week 1 with San Fran, to week 2 in Green Bay, all the way to the second part of the season in Minnesota, where Jared Goff's able to look off the safety, come back man-to-man, and he knows TJ Hockenson is going to win that battle.
So while Hockenson may not be catching touchdowns against double teams inside the 20, he at least could draw a little bit of extra help to open up someone else. But at the same time, when he's one-on-one, as we've seen this past season, that's the place that you look to go to. When you know he's got a one-on-one, you look to Hawk, and usually he's making that play. Same thing showed up on 3rd and longs against Philly. We also got to keep in mind issues for his touchdowns being slow. As to the middle part of the season, we really didn't get into the red zone. So not only did he miss games, we also weren't getting into the red zone very often because we were barely scoring. You look at Baltimore, all the touchdowns were swift. We had a couple big plays, but we stopped moving the ball. Cincinnati, Philadelphia. So it limits his opportunity to make touchdowns.
So I think the ability is there. You just want to see him more consistently on the field. You want to see him dial back some of the flags because he had 6 last season, 4 false starts and 2 holdings. And while you would like to see the production increase, I do feel like partly that will if he's on the field more, of course, because he's going to have more opportunities to do so. Like the way that Dan Campbell put it, you know, the ability to block and win the one-on-ones and pick up the crucial downs. And I feel like TJ Hockenson kind of does all that. He makes really tough catches when taking big hits. So I'm a fan of TJ Hockenson. I think the only drop that he had was the rollout, which went off his fingertips. If they were considering that a drop, that's the only one that I can really remember. And I think that's what they're pointing to here. Either way, we'll get into that more later on. Now, listening to Ben Johnson, our offensive coordinator, who was speaking on our offense, of course, a lot of the questions were about Jared Goff. And the first thing, by the way, before we even get to that, he started off by kind of setting the tone. I love the way that he set the tone. Ben Johnson was like, look, you know, I heard that there was another coordinator talking about he wanted to be the best coordinator in Lions history, which was Aaron Glenn saying he wants to be the best defense coordinator in Lions history. And he's like, look, he's gonna have his work cut out for him. All right, he's got some competition, basically. That's what Ben Johnson said. And at the same time, he said, hopefully that does not include breakdancing, because he saw him do that and it wasn't very good. Okay, hey, hold up. You didn't have to call out the man's dancing. All right, now look, I would be the one to know what good breakdancing is. All right, if anybody knows, it's me. I'm just saying. Y'all saw the Instagram. The point is, you didn't need to call out my guys dancing. With that being said, he said he's more of a 2000s Usher type of dancer. So I would like to see that. That's where I'll leave it at. But I like how he set the tone of the presser. With that being said, speaking of Jared Goff, he said, look, my goal is to have Jared Goff have the best season of his career. He said Goff has been very involved this offseason, basically at what he's comfortable with, what he feels like he's good at, and they have a really strong relationship currently.
What's that?
He said that they've looked back at what he did with the LA Rams and when he had success there, because he said, look, he's had success in the National Football League. Spring, he and Jared Goff sat down, had a pretty lengthy one-on-one, and they had a really good conversation about this. First off, I love this on so many levels, and I think it ties into exactly what we've been saying about how Ben Johnson, first-time offensive coordinator. Now, he did talk about his experience, which we'll get to, but a first-time offensive coordinator, kind of blank canvas. How the Detroit Lions are seemingly taking that approach to this whole Jared Goff situation as, yeah, we're going to put you in the best position to be successful, but we got to figure out what you do well. Because with LA, I didn't think that was always the case. But this seems like it's the first opportunity with the Detroit Lions, and Ben Johnson, as a new offensive coordinator, implemented an offense that he's comfortable in, that plays to his strengths. And as he says, he wants this to be the best season of his career, which has to make you excited. But it tells you where the focus is at as an offensive coordinator and as a coaching staff for Jared Goff. Going back, looking at his LA Rams game. Now, of course, he didn't really go into depth here. He was like, yeah, you know, he's good at play action. Okay. I don't think he would have had to go back and really watch LA Rams games to know that. I think we all already knew that. I'm sure they looked ahead a lot deeper things than that. He said, look, we're expecting to have a good running game this year, so we're going to be able to play off of that, set the play action off of that. But when he says going back watching LA, he didn't go back and watch LA to say, hey, he's pretty good at play action. There was a lot of deeper look there. I can guarantee you that. And I think you should definitely check out the offensive scheme video we put up, because while I don't think, you know, everything was right, nail on the head, but I think there was a lot of things that we hit on there that Ben Johnson came back and basically confirmed in this presser. Asked him about the whole verbiage thing and the up tempo. It has been kind of mistaken, and we even talked about it in that video. When we say tempo, it doesn't necessarily mean playing faster, and even he said that. It's not like we're trying to get off 100 plays a game. This is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is to run the football, right? He's not going to be no huddle every play, see how many snaps we can get off. That's not their play style. But when we talk about the tempo, it stems from, as Ben Johnson also says here, the verbiage. Out of what we saw kind of in the second half of the season with some verbiage differences offensively. And that's exactly what Ben Johnson said, is it's, again, the verbiage and having basically less syllables. So I think we hit on it. I don't want to go too deep into it because I'll be repeating what I said in that other video, but less syllables, a lot quicker. You can relay calls. Now, he did say this is a little bit of an exercise, and you kind of have to lean on the quarterback. You have to lean on, you know, the roster to really get this down. He said so far we've only implemented about 60% of the offense, but they really like what they were at, and he feels like, you know, they're ahead of where he thought they would be at this time in OTAs. Very short play calls that could be just one word that could lead to route concepts across the field where everybody knows what they're doing based on one call, which can allow you to be a lot faster, more efficient, hopefully less delay of game calls. Can allow you to play faster, but it really can allow you to change the tempo. He wants to put that pressure on every defense they face. And as Dan Campbell said, going back, he doesn't want to be limited by anything schematically. The only way they want to be limited is maybe a player isn't good in this area or he's not great in this area. So we don't want to call that. Really good involving Jared Goff in this process on kind of Goff working together, put this offense, but he's also been very open-minded to areas that they're challenging him to be better. Great to have this with Ben Johnson, who they still don't know who the play caller is. Dan Campbell keeps saying he's going to trust his gut. I feel like it's going to end up being Ben Johnson, who said, look, I feel like I'm ready. I'm confident that I'm ready right now, and he thinks a lot of it is kind of just reading the plays off the call sheet because of all the preparation that goes into that week. But he also says that he's had experience going back to when he was Miami in certain situations in practice, 2-minute drills, the late game situations where time is running down. He's had experience doing that, and that's where it seems to change a little bit. So I feel like it's going to end up being Ben Johnson. Initially, I thought it'd be DC. I kind of feel like it's going to be Ben Johnson. However, I thought I would throw that in there. He also talked about the red zone going back, saying that, hey, we dropped off a lot of efficiency last year in terms of rushing the football. And even though he said, yeah, it gets a lot tighter, but you're dropping off efficiency from the 20-yard line, it's not the safeties that are impacting the run and making your efficiency drop off big time against the run. So that's going to be one of their focuses. He said they would start getting into that. I think he said tomorrow they would actually start getting into that. Jamison Williams, who's been off the side, you can see the energy. He's always carrying around a football shot to J-Mo. Hey, that was sweet. Jamison, we appreciate you. But basically, Jamison Williams, he said it's going to be a little bit of a struggle because it's the timing, knowing where you're supposed to be at this time so you can anticipate throws. We talk about timing routes all the time with Jared Goff. Anticipation, coming out of my drop, right? Is it the first read? Is it my hitch? Where do you need to be at this time? That's what's going to be the challenge with him, is when he does get back, is trying to work on the timing in a limited amount of reps while trying to get him onto the field versus a guy like Josh Reynolds, who already kind of had that timing down with Jared Goff, that trust when he joined the Lions because they've already played together in the past. Speaking of receivers, by the way, DJ Chark, DJ Chark's that dude. I'm just going to say it right. DJ Chark just looked like the number one receiver. I mean, this is the first time I've seen him in person, but it was like he's the guy. He seemed like the guy on the outside, the number one. Of course, he was out there with the first team. There was no Jamison Williams, but he was immediately like the guy, it seemed like, on the outside, thrusted into that role. It felt like there was a lot of trust already between him and DJ Chark. We know they put in some off-field work, that he's going to step in and be very impactful immediately for this Lions offense. I'm just saying the chemistry seems to be there a little bit with DJ Chark, but at the same time, it's just kind of like he plugged himself in. It's not like he's out there, but he's not really out there because he's not really getting the ball. Nah, he's getting the football, and he's getting the ball downfield. And the way in certain routes that he's catching makes you excited. The deep ends, the deep dig routes, where it's like, all right, you want a rack opportunity? Yeah, catch this and make something happen. This is a different route that you ran back with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Speaking of receivers, Ben Johnson said, look, you need smart receivers for what we're looking to do to attack a defense. First part of that, I would say, as of right now, first part is probably, again, the play calls. The receivers have to understand by a certain play call with less verbiage. Verbiage, that's how Dan Campbell said it. I'm sorry, now I'm saying it. I don't know if that's correct or not. But basically, with less verbiage, that you can take that, understand your concept, no matter the formation that you're lined up in. It also comes down to option routes. With the amount of concepts, two-man concepts that the Lions are going to run, which they ran a lot of in the second half of last season, which Dan Campbell said is going to carry over to this season. If that is the case, which makes a lot of sense because, again, with the kind of offense that they're running, it's a lot of concepts, so you get a lot of two-man concepts where they kind of play off of each other. It's important that they know how to attack the leverage, attack the coverage look, adjust to it, adjust on the fly, adjust with different tempo. So he's right. You need those, smart receivers that really understand the offense. Right now, that's kind of the area they're in right now, is trying to pick up and understand the offense for everybody. Here are some of my takeaways. First off, on the schematic side with Julian Okudah, he was rocking that stand-up role, the stand-up Sam linebacker role in almost like a 4-3 underfront. Campbell wasn't lying to us. That's what he was doing. And he played a lot with the first team, and it seems like he could get a lot of reps this year. Would not shock me if he played a lot this season, because Dan Campbell said with Charles Harris that for the role we're looking, he doesn't really need to play that Sam role because the Sam is going to be asked sometimes to drop into coverage, play tight ends, rush the quarterback, be able to stop the run on the outside of tight ends. Charles Harris doesn't need to play that role. He's more of a different role, which I think he's alluding to more of a base defensive end. But at the same time, he can do that, which could mean that Julian Okudah is in line for a lot of snaps because he seemingly ran with the first team a lot in that Sam backer role. And he could come in day one and be your Sam backer. And I think guys backing him up would be the James Houstons. Possibly flexibility there with a Jared Davis, who played off ball at times today. But at the same time, fans will love this. He did a lot of rushing the quarterback. And I know there's not as much contact there, things like that, but he did a lot of rushing the quarterback, get him on the edge and go after, especially when they got in sub packages. And I actually think one time he forced an interception. Kerby Joseph picked off a pass today. Kerby Joseph picked off a pass on an underneath route. He always seems like he's around the football. So if you're like, okay, I don't know how much of a playmaker he's really going to be, he's a little raw. Look, he's a playmaker, and it's just immediate. To me, making plays like this early where he always seems to flash, it's like, oh, there he is. Oh, he just made another play. He's always around the football. That's just who he is. He is a playmaker that we lacked in terms of coverage. He picked off a pass today. Davis got some pressure, forced the pass out a little quick. I couldn't really tell what the route concepts were, but I know it was picked off by Kerby Joseph. So I'm just saying, two things there. Davis is rushing a quarterback, and he worked against the left tackle, got around the edge, which was pretty impressive. Kerby Joseph had a pick. Kerby had a good day today. Notice Penny Sewell jammed his finger in one of his individual drills, so it looked like he jammed his finger. I don't know if that's actually what he did. It looked like it. Those guys didn't come around and, do autographs or things like that, but it looked like he jammed his finger in the back. I mean, you could tell when someone jams it, you're just like, oh my gosh, that hurt. They're just kind of giving you one of these numbers, and then they're holding it. He probably jammed a finger. I think he jammed a finger doing some offensive line drills. Speaking of the quarterback position and Jared Goff, saw them pushing the ball downfield. He saw a lot of trust standing in there trying to deliver some passes, and it's a little bit tough because they didn't do a ton of those, like 11-11s, things like that. But when you talk about just going through individual drills, and look, it's June 1st. Guys should be missing passes, right? Guys should be throwing picks, should be making mistakes, because if you can't do it in practice, where can you do it? In the games, that's not good. So make the mistakes now. With that being said, through drills, he looked very crisp, very crisp. They had a little drill where they were, doing footwork and then passing into little targets. They had 3 targets. It's probably 15 yards away, the end zone plus about 5-10 more yards. And he missed the first one by a little bit, the first little square target. And Blau and Boyle were going through these as well. But after missing the first one, I think he did 5 in total, hit the next 4. Bang, 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 bang. It was like, dang. And I think Mark Brunell even said at one point, like, man, you're smoking these. He was just dropping him in there. So it wasn't the hardest pass, right? We know he doesn't have the most heat on the football, but as long as it's accurate and it's on time, it's going to work. With that being said, Tim Boyle's got some heat. Now, here's a little story for you. So Tim Boyle threw the football to me. So shout out to Tim Boyle. Really appreciate it. He threw the ball, and I caught it because I got reliable hands. Sometimes in the streets, people call me Megatron. I don't say it, but some people do. The point is, I caught the pass, but I threw it. When I threw it back, it had a nice little spiral, didn't wobble. Now, I'll be fair, I was only about 10, 15 yards away, but it had a nice little spiral to it. It wasn't a zip. It was more like a little, little touch pass, if you will, but it was on the money. I saw Tim Boyle give me a little nod, like, yeah, that's legit. That's what it is. And I was just like, okay, that's it. That's all I needed. Tim Boyle knows. Tim Boyle knows if you can throw the football. And I saw a little nod. I was like, all right, I'm in there. I'm in there. So just so if anybody was wondering if I can throw some dots, just ask Tim Boyle. With that being said, Goff was throwing some good passes through those drills. And then you saw really, a couple of those passes were on the money. There's a couple behind in terms of running against error, like 30, 40 yards downfield for his three-step drop and, drop it in the bucket. He's always been a little bit more accurate to one side of the field than the other. I think the right side, he's much more accurate than the left side, which shows off in drills as well. He seems to be a little bit off with, how far to throw the ball when he's working his deep passes towards the left side. They're a little bit more inconsistent. Throwing it to the right, my goodness, that thing is money. And it's weird because he's right-handed. It feels a little weird. Maybe it's because it's a shorter distance. Those things are money. And he's just dropping them in the bucket. And then you see when they flip the other way, it could be a little bit on and off there, but he looked very accurate. Also, Khalil Pimpleton, I know he's been getting a lot of hype, but Khalil Pimpleton, man, shout out to Khalil Pimpleton. That dude's energy was amazing. Pimpleton, he beat Chase Lucas. I think it was Chase Lucas, which is probably not the best matchup. I think Chase Lucas is a better man-off coverage guy, and that kind of shifty receiver is going to be a problem. But it's not the fact that he got open. I expect the guy to get open. I do. I expect him to be on time and get open because at his speed and shiftiness, if you're in man coverage, you better get open. With that being said, finishing the play is going to be important. I know there's no contact, so it's like, all right, he's not as much afraid to attack the middle of the field. But attacking the middle, pass behind him, made the grab from Tim Boyle. I thought that was a big-time catch. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be important. If he's consistently making those to the point where the coach is like, there you go, and he comes into the preseason, he makes those, that will give him a shot to push into the roster. With that being said, Khalif Raymond still looks really good. We know he can play a lot of different spots. Will Harris, got to give a lot of credit here. Look, Will Harris, and I'm working on the secondary video where I'm going to break down, talk about what my expectations are, the profiles, things like that. Point being is Will Harris to me is a cornerback. I've seen him at safety, watch him at corner, and while it's new to him, and he doesn't show as much anticipation, I think, there is no question that he has the agility, the quickness, the burst, the top end speed to play outside cornerback. No question. He played a lot of tight ends in college. He can do that as well. He's an extremely smart cornerback. He understands everything seemingly. With that being said, today he had a nice pass breakup, and it was very pretty. So they went to 7-on-7s, and you could see what was coming. You could literally see it. You could see multiple offensive motions in 7-on-7s. You saw by how they were lining up. It was like, all right, this is man coverage. So you knew Goff had a one-on-one. With that being said, you saw him drop back. He had a one-on-one. Will Harris, he went with a back shoulder pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I believe it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Will Harris made a play on the football. Now, maybe the timing was a little off. The angle we got wasn't the best. Maybe the ball placement was a little bit too far in front. Point is, he broke it up, and that's awesome. He made a few plays on the football last year, like I think it was the Vikings game. But you would like to see more ball production. That comes with anticipation and reps, and it was really nice to see him make that play on the ball. He looked very smooth, and then the very next rep, you see Aubrey Pleasant from the end zone just going crazy. I see you, 2-5. I see you. So, hey, shout out to Will Harris, man. Will Harris still getting high reps, but what I said when I said, hey, look, there's no way he takes iffy spot, this and that, you have to really go back and rewatch these guys. And I'm telling you, Will Harris is built to be a corner. And while he's not the most polished from what I've seen, I think he has the movement skills to be a cornerback and stick on this roster as a cornerback. And with that being said, that puts even more pressure on the Chase Lucases and those players because, if he's getting reps at safety now, even though I don't think he practiced today. So maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see him. I'm not sure. Point is, Will Harris looks like he's got a very legitimate shot to help you at the cornerback position. Also, small note, Aiden Hutchinson, that dude. The dog out of Michigan, Hutchinson. Okay, shout out to Hutch. This is something you note with a lot of these young guys. They're always working at the bottom of the depth chart. And Hutchinson was until they started getting some team drills at the end, and he was running with the first team. He was running as a defensive end, hand in the dirt for all the reps that I saw. Maybe some sub package he stood up, but it was hand in the dirt. I think strong side defensive end. I think sometimes he played weak side defensive end as well, but it was hand in the dirt, rush the quarterback that way. And it's really tough without contact. Hutchinson was running with the first team. I think that's important. There was a couple of chase down situations. I can't say I saw like tons of quick wins or anything like that, but I also wasn't really focused on him. Plus, he was like 30 yards away, and it's really hard to see behind the secondary because we were behind it. With that being said, he was running with the first team, so, if we were all expecting that. Shane Zylstra seemed to have a really good day today. I mean, there was multiple plays. You're like, who is that? Like, that's Shane Zylstra. He made multiple plays over the middle of the field, anticipation throws, behind defensive backs, just over the top, small windows, just coming out of breaks. Shane Zylstra, who last season, I think, left some passes out there that you would like to see him make when we talk about winning the one-on-ones. However, he did still shows he is an athlete that still made some nice grabs, and the chemistry seems to really be there with him and Goff because, you go back to, I think it was the Vikings game again, where they send the blitz, Goff picks it up quickly and goes right to Shane Zylstra, reacts to it, hits Shane Zylstra middle of the field, and you're like, all right, that looks good. It's really quick, and he doesn't seem to need to see him coming out of the break. The chemistry seems to really be picking up there to the point where it's very smooth between those two. Went to some situational again, and it was a minute on the clock, down by 4 from your own 38-yard line. No timeouts. And, of course, you need a touchdown. The first unit, led by Jared Goff, they only did one drive each. The first one was a check down. First play was a check down to Swift, got a couple of yards, and I think he went out of bounds. The second play it looked like an out route. I kind of saw it late to Shane Zylstra. Again, it brought up a 3rd down and 1. I think he got out of bounds. On that 3rd and 1, Goff didn't find anything early, rolled to his left, kind of just threw it away. 4th and 1. On 4th and 1, this is the big pass. He had a big pass, like a dig over the middle from the left side, cutting inside to Josh Reynolds. Late, steps up in the pocket. You saw a little step up, and he just fired it over the middle. Lunging, laying out, excellent grab. I mean, the hands, the concentration was excellent to finish that pass. Came up with it, and I think they had the ball inside the 25, easily in field range, but they were down 4. Spiked it. They had 12 seconds. Next play, they did some sort of designed rollout, but the play was blown dead. I don't know if they just assumed he got sacked or what. Seemed like a very strange play to also call. Maybe I don't know what they were looking for. Point is, the play seemed very strange. Either way, it ended it, and they went to the second unit. With the second unit, this one was not as good. The defense was definitely on top of this. And we got some talent now on the defense. The first play was Kerby Joseph in coverage across from Khalif Raymond. And I'm like, okay, they talked about him lining in nickel sets. And it wasn't like he had a pass breakup, but it was good coverage. Passed a little bit, I guess you could say behind Khalif Raymond on like a 5-yard hitch, incomplete. And I'm like, dang, Kerby, that's impressive though. I mean, Khalif is one of the shiftier receivers. So even from off-man coverage, to be able to keep that kind of connection is very impressive, and that's going to be huge in terms of leading to upside and versatility and not coming off the field. So you get that. Second play is a sack. Don't know who did it, but it was a sack. Third play, you go to a check down, and then on fourth down, he's sacked again, drive is over. Defense was definitely ahead of the offense. Every rep seemed to take way too long. They could not find anybody open. So, and we know at this point, usually defense is much further ahead along of the offense, but it just seemed like they could not get anybody open. It wasn't missed pass or drops. They just weren't getting the ball out of their hands. That being said, I thought Boyle looked pretty good in terms of coverage reads in 7-on-7s. When he got a zone read, one deep seam that was dropped over the middle, but they had two guys like right next to each other, so I don't know if that was meant to be. Point is, he picked up on the zone, and he came back with a check down, picked up on the cornerback zone that he was dropping and sinking, so he hit the little check down. The reads seemed to be there. Not going to say they were extremely fast, but they were there. They seemed to be some good coverage reads, but in the 11-on-11s, man, the defense definitely won the day. They did not kick field goals afterwards. I'm just going to say this to end this thing off. The Lions, and it may just sound like something to say, but it legitimately looks like they have a lot more talent on the field. There's just talent everywhere. Every position group has a guy you're like, oh. Like Kerby Joseph, the playmaking he has as a coverage guy is something we needed, and you see it. But you talk about Sean Elliott, lining up in man coverage reps, being versatile. Tracy Walker, same thing, get some man coverage reps there as well from the off-man safety position, the versatility between the two. Then he moved to cornerback, and of course Okudah's out there, but he wasn't always out there because they were rotating, so you saw some Will Harris. Seemed to look pretty good. I don't know who Josh Reynolds beat late in that play over the middle, but he looked pretty good. There's just talent. Receivers, I mean, Chark stands out. Chark literally seems to stand out in terms of he just felt like he was getting open, and I wouldn't say he looked faster than everybody, but he kind of stood out. I know he's tall, he's 6'4", he just looks good, and he's getting those rack opportunities that he said that he was looking for to make things happen with the ball in his hands. Goff looked confident. I know it's only June 1st, but he looked confident, and he's pushing the ball. So excited to see how this go. I really am with the scheme side of it. Running back is super deep. Everybody looked fast. Greg Bell looked really fast, which was expected because he's a very fast back. Jamar Jefferson looked powerful. I was hoping he'd come over and sign this, but I never saw him, which made me sad. But anyways, he looked powerful. He looked good running the football. Swift, which, by the way, DeAndre Swift, Deuce Staley said that we're challenging DeAndre Swift because there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. It helps us when he's on the field, but sometimes you have to be able to play through some of those injuries. And last season, look, we've seen him miss 7 games. He's missed some time in terms of being limited coming into games. He missed a lot of offseason action. Last season, he had a groin strain, which he also had one of those going back to college at Georgia. Then he had an AC joint sprain. He had a shoulder injury. So he's dealt with some multiple injuries, but Deuce Staley said they're challenging him to play through some of those injuries because he said as soon as you step in as a running back and you hit training camp, you're never going to feel basically the same. You're always going to be kind of banged and beat up. And one thing that he's worked to do this offseason is put mass on, put bulk on, and get stronger. And he looks strong. He does look very strong, especially in the upper body. To me, he looked much more buff. He's shorter, but he looks buff. So you can see the physicality there, probably just trying to withstand and hold up, which can be very important. I would say if there's anything to look forward to and can Swift earn an extension is health. We know he's talented. No one's questioning whether or not he's talented. He needs to stay on the field. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to with DeAndre. He's a great player, but he needs to stay on the field, and I like that. And then they asked Ben Johnson about it. He's no push against Swift. Swift is a great running back. He helps us a ton, but he's very excited to see the offensive line because of the stable of backs that we have. Netflix is jacked, by the way. Netflix is huge. I didn't realize how big that Netflix is huge. Godwin looks really fast. Jamal brings all the energy to the group. Just a really good group. Tight end is nice, even though we didn't even see Hockenson. James Mitchell, big dude. James Mitchell's a big dude. But Shane Zylster making plays, and then the defense side of the ball, there's just so much more talent, it seems like, that's just kind of been juiced into this team. Just boom, like here's some talent, man. Here you guys go. Let's go. Let's get some playmakers. Lions feel like they have playmakers on both sides of the ball, which you cannot help but be excited about. So those are the notes that I took away. Again, shout out to the Lions, shout out to Michael Banks, shout out to all the players, the coaches, the security there, everybody there. Appreciate it. It was a great time. Everybody that I met there or that maybe knew me, shout out to you. Appreciate you. The support. Appreciate everybody watching this video right now. How we doing? How you doing? Good? Hey, look, be excited because the season is coming soon. I am very hyped up. I couldn't get pictures or videos. Thank you for watching. I'm sure we'll be live soon within the next day or two or something to discuss this even more. Make sure if you have any questions, let me know, because if there's something that I feel like I saw that I may have not brought up because I just didn't think about it, leave a question. And if I am like, oh yeah, I saw this, and then I'll come back and answer it. That's Cops Below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.